Let's explore the different items you can create in your Fabric environment. I'm going to start by creating a new workspace. I'll go ahead to give this workspace a name. So I can say, for an example, Learning Fabric. You can choose to give it a description or leave it optional. I can also choose to upload an image or just leave it optional. So I'm just going to quickly click on apply and a new workspace is now launched. If you have not watched my previous video on how to create a workspace, try to do that. So in our workspace, I have new items, new folders, import, create apps, manage access, and workspace settings. I have a video on that. So I'm going to start off by creating items. So where do you create items? You must be familiar with Lakehouse. If you are yet to watch my video on Lakehouse, I urge you to quickly rush down to my channel to see that before coming back to this video. Click on new items. You can see this pop-up banner that says you haven't created any item yet. I can filter by keyword. I can say Lakehouse. So I'm just going to have this Lakehouse selected. When you just have that challenge, just upgrade and click on my Lakehouse series. So the currently selected workspace is my Learning Fabric workspace. Another thing I quickly just want to talk about is about the Lakehouse schemas. This checkbox is by default. Schemas lets you organize tables into logical groups. For example, I can say sales period orders and marketing period campaigns. Instead of placing all tables in a single flat file list, you can choose to clear the checkbox if you don't need schema-based organization. I also have a detailed documentation for Lakehouse schema. So I'm just going to leave mine as default and I'm going to click on create. My Lakehouse is now created. You can see a pop-up here that says successfully created SQL Analytics endpoint. Explore the different capabilities to get data into your Lakehouse. You can simply upload files. That's your uploading from your local machine. You can even start with a sample data. New shortcut. This is basically where you access data that resides in an external lake, as well as new data flow gen 2. If you are coming from a Power BI background, you should be familiar with your Power Query interface. You can also get data through new copy job. That is, you're copying data from any source into your Lakehouse, as well as open notebook and connect event stream. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be getting our data from the sample source. This Lakehouse Explorer spin allows you to browse tables and files in the Lakehouse. Your table folder contains tables you can query using SQL semantics, also tables in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse. Tables in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse are based on the open source Delta format commonly used in Apache Spark. We also have the files. So the files folder contains data files in one lake storage for Lakehouse that aren't associated with managed Delta tables. We are also going to be exploring a lot of capabilities in the Lakehouse. Let's start by uploading a file. I'm going to select my files through folder so you can see the data to contain in it. So I'm going to use these 3 ellipses to upload a sample data into our Lakehouse. You can also do that here, upload files from your local machine, or you can navigate to the top menus on the get data icons. You would see options like upload files. But I quickly want to come to my files and click on the 3 ellipses, and I'm going to select upload files. When I have that selected, I'll see this pop-up icon that says upload files to my Lakehouse. I'm quickly going to browse to the file. So I'm just going to have that on check, but I won't override mine because I'm very certain the file doesn't exist. I'm just going to click on upload. My load operation has been completed. I'm just going to X this out. How do you see your files? How do you know that your files has been uploaded to your Lakehouse? I'm going to click select my files. So when I select files, you can see that I have a sales period CSV. This confirms your load operation. I'm going to select my sales table that has been created, and it gives me different view options. I want to quickly switch between, this is my file view. I want to switch between my table view. I use the drop down for view settings to select first row as headers, and you can see that the first row has automatically been converted to headers. But we can't work with this data because this data is in a file format. What am I going to do to this data? What if I want to query this data? Let's say, for an example, in a SQL Analytics endpoint, how do I go about that? I click on the 3 ellipses on sales CSV, and I see the options for load to new table. When I have this selected, the DBO schema, and my new table is sales table, and I'm going to click on load. You notice these pop-ups that says successfully created sales table. You've seen how to load data from your files to a table. These triangular icons, this simply refers to that this data is stored in a delta format, and these are the different items in my table. I want to quickly switch the view from the sales table. I want to switch it to see the underlying files in the table. So this is the file view. You notice here I have delta log. I also have my packet file. I also have a folder which is what? My metadata. Files for a delta table are stored in a packet format, and it also includes a subfolder named delta log, in which details of transactions applies to the tables are logged. So which simply means that you are deleting a table, you are updating a table, whatever transaction you are doing to your data, the details are logged. You are able to track changes in your data. I also have a detailed documentation for this, so you can always quickly read my documentation on delta log. I can query this data in a Lakehouse. This is where my SQL Analytics endpoint comes in handy. On my Lakehouse, I'm quickly going to switch using this drop down. I'm going to switch from a Lakehouse. Lakehouse is basically where you explore your data files and folder. I'm going to switch to my SQL Analytics endpoint to query the data. My visual interface has been opened, and I'm going to start off by selecting my new SQL query. I'm simply just going to come to my DBO, which is my schema, come to my table, click on the three ellipses. I'm just going to refresh to see my data, and I'm going to click on the drop down. You see this drop down I have in my Lakehouse DBO period cells. Click on these three ellipses, new SQL query, and I'm going to just select, just by default, select top 100 rows. What I want to work with, I want to use my sum function. I'm going to enter this line of code. So I have items, right? So let's switch back here and see what we have. I want to get the total revenue, which is simply quantity times unit price. So that's what I want to do. I'm going to say use my sum function. It's been long I wrote SQL queries. Open my bracket. So I'm going to say quantity multiplied by my unit price. And I'm going to give this an alias. If you are coming from the SQL background, you don't need to be left out. Everyone is included in the fabric revolution. So I'm going to say sales group by, I'm going to order by my revenue in a descending order. I'm quickly just going to run this query. These are the different items for my revenue. I have rate 150, rate 48. If I switch back to my SQL query, quantity multiplied by the unit price. While many data professionals are familiar with SQL, data analysts with Power BI experience can apply these Power Query skills to create visual queries. On my toolbar, I'm just going to expand to new visual query. So you can see I'm going to have this selected. I'm going to drag my sales table to the new visual query editor pane to open a new Power Query window. Just quickly going to drag, and I'm going to place it here. If you're coming from a Power BI background, you're already familiar with this interface. Give it a moment for it to load. I have reduced rows. If you want to reduce the number of rows, so I'm going to select my manage column menu. When I have my manage column menu selected, I have options like choose columns. That's what I'm going to be selecting. I'm going to uncheck all these boxes, and I'm only going to select my sales order number and my sales order line column. I'm just going to click on OK. So whichever transformation you are making, I wanted to mention Power BI, but this is not Power BI. Starting from the source, the database, tables, also to choose columns, there are steps outlined for you. Under transform, I'm going to have my transform selected, and I'm going to select group by option, sales order number. I'm going to say line items. Operations, I want it to count distinct values of sales order line number. I'm going to click on OK. Let me pull this up a bit. This data has been grouped based on the sales order number, and this is our new column that has been created, which is the line item. You can go ahead to view queries. You can even decide to sort the options. Whatever transformation is applied, your steps are being outlined for you. So you can go ahead, use the plus icon. You can collapse if the steps are too long. So you can say here, this is 6 steps, and the 6 steps involve source, database, tables, choose column, group rows, sorted by rows. That's how to go about working with visual query. Also querying your data from SQL Analytics endpoint. How can I switch back to my Lakehouse? Simply go to your top right corner, SQL Analytics endpoints, click on the drop down and you would see Lakehouse. I can easily switch back to my Lakehouse, and I can also switch back to my SQL Analytic endpoint. I want to show you how to delete a Lakehouse. Deleting a Lakehouse removes the Lakehouse items. I'm simply referring to all its data, associated SQL Analytic endpoints, and the semantic model. So to delete a Lakehouse, simply go to open my workspace, Learning Fabric. I'm going to select these 3 ellipses. I'm going to click on delete. All your items, the associated SQL Analytic endpoint and all the semantic models is deleted alongside, and there is no recovery. Another thing I want to show, or whenever you create a Lakehouse, your SQL Analytic endpoint is created automatically and your semantic models. Thank you for watching this video. Do well to subscribe, share with your friends, your data professionals. Fabric is still new to the system, so it's not too late if you start learning Fabric. You are in the right channel.